So, good morning, everyone. This morning, I want to talk about the footprint of an elephant. And this is another one of the Buddha's metaphors. And, I was thinking about this, and so many wonderful teachers in different faith traditions use parables and metaphors. I just think it's such a wonderful teaching vehicle. But I love this one, as I love all the ones that the Buddha taught. But, here he's really saying that his teachings were never intended just for us. He believed that his teachings extend outward from ourselves to the communities and others, the communities in which we live and the others who live in those communities. And the quote is attributed to him as, quote, "Just as the footprints of all living beings that walk fit into the footprint of an elephant, so care is the one thing that secures all kinds of good. Just as the footprints of all living beings that walk fit into the footprint of an elephant, so care is the one thing that secures all kinds of good," close quotes. And it's really providing some guidance on how we approach and think about our life, our relationship with others. And while it's a sort of a simple quote, it really serves as a practical reminder that mindfulness, compassion, intentionality, these qualities that the Buddha referred to as care, form the foundation for a life of goodness, well-being, and harmony. The metaphor of the elephant's footprint is a significant one in the Buddha's teachings. The elephant, certainly in his time, and still a powerful and majestic creature, leaves behind a large footprint that could encompass the tracks of all the other beings in the forest or on the savannah. And similarly, care, when truly practiced, becomes a universal foundation, a universal principle that encompasses and supports all the other virtues. Just as the elephant's footprint is the largest among terrestrial animals, the Buddha is saying that care is the most fundamental and encompassing of all qualities. It's the foundation upon which all other wholesome qualities rest. It's foundational. And to understand this, the practical implications of this teaching, it's important that we recognize what the Buddha meant by care. He wasn't using it sort of in a narrow or casual way that we might typically think about it, like I care for you, or I care about this, or, thanks for being caring. He's talking about it as a deliberate attention to how we think, speak, and act, a pretty broad-based understanding, the quality of being present, of being mindful, of treating others and ourselves with kindness, of nurturing a sense of responsibility for the well-being of all. So you can really begin to get a feel for how all-encompassing this notion was for him. And he goes on to suggest that care is not passive. It's an active engagement with life that stems from our compassion, stems from our wisdom. If in the Buddhist teachings, good, in quotes there, refers to actions, thoughts, and attitudes that bring about harmony, that reduce suffering, and that promote happiness for ourselves and others. And care is the foundation, is what allows us to cultivate this goodness in every aspect of our lives. Without care as the foundation, even our most virtuous intentions or practices can falter. Care ensures that we approach every situation with mindfulness and with compassion. It's like the filter that we wear to approach every situation. It guides us towards skillful choices, and it guides us away from harmful choices. So, for example, think of the practice of generosity, dana, one of the core virtues in Buddhism. True generosity, as the Buddha taught it, arises not from a sense of obligation, nor does it arise from a wish for recognition. It arises in this context from a deep sense of care for others. Okay, we don't do it out of obligation. We don't do it because we want to pat ourselves on the back. We do it out of a deep sense of concern and care for others. When we give from a place of care, our actions are imbued with genuine kindness, which allows the recipient to feel truly supported. And the difference is perceptible to the recipient, the person receiving our care. They can discern this. They can feel that difference. And similarly, ethical conduct, sila in Pali, is rooted in care. Care for the well-being of others and for the integrity of our own mind, our own value system. When we refrain from harmful actions, it's because we care about minimizing suffering. We care about fostering trust and peace. So again, you see how care becomes foundational with all of these practices. Even with meditation, the cornerstone of our practice is sustained by care. Because to cultivate true mindfulness, we have to care enough to be present with our thoughts and present with our emotions without judging them, to observe them without judgment, and to gently guide ourselves back to the present moment with kindness, with care. Without care, our meditation practice can quickly become mechanical. It can become frustrating. It will lack the warmth. It will lack the compassion necessary for that true transformation. And this teaching, as the Buddha taught it, wasn't reserved only for monks or advanced practitioners. It is deeply relevant to all of us in our everyday lives, in our relationships. It manifests as actively listening, as being patient with others, as being empathic with others. Again, you see how foundational it is. When we truly care for someone in this context, we strive to understand their needs, understand their feelings. We act in ways that promote their happiness, that eases their suffering. This all requires not just the foundation of care, but everything that emanates from that. Our mindfulness, being fully present with the people around us, and a willingness to set aside our own ego needs, our own preferences for the sake of connection and understanding. This is another one of these practices, this notion of care, that really serves to tame the ego, help us tame the ego. Care can transform how we approach everything, how we interact with others. When we care about the quality of our actions, we engage with integrity. When we care about the well-being of others, we create an environment of mutual respect and support. Even with mundane chores, when approached with care, become opportunities for present moment awareness, for gratitude. And then also importantly, care extends to how we treat ourselves. The Buddha emphasized the importance of self-care, not in an ego-based, selfish, or indulgent sense, but a recognition that our own well-being is intertwined with the well-being of others. When we are experiencing contentment and well-being, it's just going to spill onto other people. When we're disgruntled, dissatisfied, that becomes harmful to ourselves and others and spills onto them. When we care about our own physical and mental health, we're better equipped to care for those around us. When we practice self-compassion, when we acknowledge our struggles without shame, when we acknowledge our struggles and treating ourselves with kindness, we move to a life with greater resilience, greater balance. The principle of care is straightforward, but the consistent practice of it can be challenging because we live in this crazy, fast-paced modern world where we are always getting distracted. We're always in situations which trigger our impatience. We get caught up in our own ego-driven desires, our ego-based frustrations. This is where our mindfulness and our present moment awareness becomes crucial. Because when we cultivate awareness of our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions, we can catch ourselves when we begin to act without care, when we begin to act in ways that might prove harmful to ourselves or others. We gently bring our attention and ourselves back to a more compassionate way of being. Another challenge with care, because it can be challenging, is when we interact with those we find difficult or disagreeable. And now this is a tough one, no question about it. But the Buddha taught, remember, that true care and compassion are not selective. We extend it to all beings, regardless of how they treat us. Now, this doesn't mean we become doormats or we tolerate harmful or condone harmful behavior, but it means we try to approach those who cause harm with an understanding of their suffering and their ignorance and how they don't see things clearly. And this universal care that I've been talking about this morning is what transforms our actions from just ordinary kindness into the more boundless compassion of the Dharma. The Buddha's teaching that, quote, care is the one thing that secures all kinds of good, close quotes, reminds us of the central role of mindfulness, compassion, and especially intentionality in our lives. Because like the elephant's footprint, this care that he talks about is vast and all-encompassing. It provides this foundation every moment of every day for every wholesome thought, every wholesome word, and every wholesome deed. When we approach life with care, whether in our relationships, in our work, in our inner practice, we create the conditions for goodness to flourish, both within ourselves and the world around us. And think about the impact of this in a world marked by haste, marked by impatience, indifference. The practice of care, it can be a true radical act of kindness and awareness. It's going against the tide. It's not the prevailing value in our culture, but it asks us to slow down, to pay attention, to act with intention. And the rewards of such a practice for ourselves and those around us can be immeasurable. Because when we embody care in all that we do, we not only bring about goodness for ourselves and others, we align ourselves with the deeper truths of the Buddha's teachings. And by doing that, we walk the path toward greater freedom and peace in our lives. So those are some thoughts this morning about the elephant's footprint.